Welcome to the Raw and Wild Hearts, a place where the raw, the unfiltered, the wild hearts gather to celebrate triumphs and hardships, learn from each other, grow together, and break down a culture rooted in fear. We will talk, we will laugh, and we will lean on each other about everyday life experiences that we could all use a little support through, and then we'll bask in the wild, magical beings that we are. My philosophy is that by embracing the dark, we may just let in the light. I am your host, Lori Rising, healer, educator, writer, adventurer, retreat leader, birth defender, and animal enthusiast and activist, along with my wild heart sidekick kitty, Jesus the Brave. We'd like to invite you to get excited about the Wild Heart Revolution. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. It's called Molly McCord Might Just Narrate Your Life, Astrology, Divinity, and You. Today, we will be celebrating the divine magic in humans by exploring ourselves and the abundance in our astrological connections. Molly McCord sees you, the divinity, the potential, the growth, the magic. She wants you to fulfill your soul's mission by sharing her vast knowledge of astrology and the spot-on downloads and messages she receives from her guides. She will come back time and again and assure you that you are exactly where you need to be and that your life is unfolding with perfect timing. We are going to explore this and the wild ride we are all taking in 2020 and this new, powerfully expansive decade. If you ever wanted to know about eclipses, retrogrades, and divine timing, stick around. This is going to be so much fun. And thank you for listening and joining in. I will tell y'all right now that this episode made me giddy, and you're going to hear that throughout the entire thing, I promise. To say Molly McCord is a dream guest is an understatement. She is a beautiful human, a mentor, a huge influence, and an astral therapist. So I just made that one up, but it's definitely a thing, and she definitely embodies that thing. So if you want to transform your friends' lives, please share this episode far and wide. I'm hoping our conversation supports you on your journey of divine intuition and knowingness. Honestly, I could have talked to Molly for hours. There was so much to cover, and there was definitely a lot more to uncover about 2020 astrology. So if you'd like to know more, I invite you to subscribe to Molly's podcast and start with the episodes from the beginning of January on. There are eclipses, powerhouse months, and so much more. Just check the show notes below and head on over. If you're listening to this episode on Apple Podcasts and feel called to leave a star rating and review, I would be so grateful. It's super easy. Just look right under the episode list and bam, all done. Well, I mean, you do have to do something, but it doesn't take much time at all. And everyone we get makes the podcast more searchable and gets these amazing interviews out to a wider audience. I also have some very exciting ventures coming up. I will be joining a powerful retreat called Exposure in Hawaii next week to share my Awakening Your Life Force pelvic floor therapy workshop. Afterward, I'll be interviewing these gorgeous women so that they can share their experience with all of you on an upcoming episode. And to add to that excitement, I will be launching the workshop as a webinar on my website in February 2020, next month. I'll also be doing a webinar giveaway soon after through my Instagram, so follow me at The Raw and Wild Hearts. Bonus, that's where you get to see much more of my wild heart sidekick kitty, Jesus the Brave, so it's definitely a win-win. I'm also taking my passion for sacred birth and putting it on paper. My book should be out by late 2020. I hope. I continue to offer online wellness and childbirth consultations. I also offer hypnobirthing childbirth classes and pelvic floor therapy here in Portland, Oregon. I actually have a hypnobirthing class coming up next month as well. You can find me at therawandwildhearts.com and on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at The Raw and Wild Hearts. Before we get into this episode, though, let's talk about One Love Cellars. Y'all know by now that I'm a huge fan of this beautiful winery here in the Pacific Northwest. Kate and Susan are unbelievably refreshing in their dedication to supporting small business and community. They embody true character, just like their wine. Get on their social media to get to know them, go out to wine country to meet them, or find a store that stocks their wine. They're at One Love Cellars. Okay, y'all, let's do this. My guest today is a best-selling author of 10 books with over 50,000 downloads, intuitive astrologer, business strategist, radio show host, and modern consciousness teacher. Often referred to as a consciousness catalyst, Molly McCord's popular website, www.consciouscoolchic.com, was nominated by Intent.com for Best Spirituality Website in 2011. She is a practicing intuitive astrologer who has connected with thousands of clients in over 30 countries, and she hosts a popular intuitive astrology podcast twice a week. Molly is being called forward on her path now to support more authors, healers, artists, and entrepreneurs to share their work by developing a solid business path. Her business training website is www.mollymccord.online, and she offers free videos, guidance, and tips for building your soul mission business and books in a solid, practical manner. Please welcome one of my biggest inspirations, Molly McCord. Hello, Molly. Thank you for joining the Wild Heart Revolution.
Hi, Lori. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here to connect with you, to connect with your audience. I'm looking forward to having an amazing conversation with you today.
Oh my gosh, I am too. So I do like to begin with a toast or a prayer to the Wild Heart Warriors in our light, especially in our dark, and in all of our magic and glory. May we continue to elevate consciousness through honesty, humor, humility, gentle care, soul-wrenching growth, and ownership, and to us, and to astrological abundance.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much for that prayer that you begin with. I love it.
I've been doing prayers my whole life. It's really a great guide for me, you know?
Yeah, understandably. Very especially a lot of power in the spoken word.
Yes. So I do like to talk a little bit about our history, and this is
Yeah.
it. We're
Great.
connecting for the first time right now through technological assistance, which is amazing. But I feel like I already know you through listening to you twice a week religiously and through all of your bonus tracks with your courses, with your YouTube channel, and of course through astral knowingness. And it's kind of like a kindred spirit sort of thing, right?
Oh, thank you. That's the kindest thing to say. I really appreciate that. And I'm glad I can connect with people like you, where we have these things in common. We support each other, we help each other, and we're not in it alone. It's like there's these things that connect us that remind us that, okay, I'm not the only one moving through some big things right now. So
Yes.
thank you, Lori. It's so great to be here.
Right. And I feel like that's one of your best and biggest messages is that I always take that from you. It's like you narrate my life. It's kind of like you're my own personal documentary host. Like astrology is my religion, you're my church. So what you offer
Oh.
is you offer faith in the process, excitement, hope for the future, belief in myself, and like a lot of trust. And honestly, I feel like that's how religion and faith should support you. They should
Oh.
give you that belief system, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that's what we crave more than ever right now, just the big changes in the world, the big shifts in our personal lives. Like we're looking for that, that connection that, okay, I'm doing this right. I've got what I need. I'm not alone. And, if I can offer any of that to people, that just warms my heart. So I'm glad it helps you. I so appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. I have the biggest posse following you. Everyone I
Oh,
talk to, I get them on the Molly McCord tip for sure. I just hope that everyone's faith leaves them feeling that same way, that I
yeah.
feel when I listen to you. So I'm just totally spiritually crushing out on you right now. I'm just going to go.
Well, you know what? It's kind of nice because I'm just like, I see myself as like a pretty simple work from home mom. So,
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
just like going through the motions and I have glamorous laundry and oh my goodness, what's going to be in dinner? So it's kind of interesting to hear all this because my life is kind of boring in some ways, but maybe that's what keeps me grounded too. Like I'm just going through this like everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely I have different rose-colored glasses when it comes to you, but I love hearing that too. And I think that that's really important to realize we all can, aspire to feel that connection in that community that you so freely and with such strength give out.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I love doing it and I'm just glad that it's supporting people right now. And I hope it continues to. I even say on my podcast how I hope that there's at least one message here that resonates with you and just validates you and lets you know you're supported, you're loved. You've got this. Things are happening, and just it's one breath at a time some days, but it's like been a really wild ride. I mean, the energies have just been more intense, especially the past decade, and then going into the 2020 and this decade. It's like there's a lot coming up. We're really being required to grow, and I feel like that's also exciting that we're being required to trust ourselves and to trust our intuition even more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm feeling that so big. It's almost undeniable, the feeling that has come. And we're definitely going to get into that. We're going to get into a lot of the 2020 and new decade astrology. But I want to say you're changing the world. Like, we have a culture rooted in fear, and building up strength and trust. I mean, it's so heart centered and it's so community oriented. Humans are made to connect, right? We
Yes.
thrive in connection.
Yes.
And so I just feel like, especially when I'm feeling down or defeated, or really when I want to give up on something, I like am biting my nails waiting for Monday or Wednesday when your podcast comes on,
Uh-huh.
because it just makes me
Oh,
believe in my gifts. But really
good.
importantly, you make me believe that my gifts are needed in the
Yes.
world,
And they are, Lori. They totally
right?
are. They are. Like, we
Ah,
need each other. And I think we're moving away from even kind of a vertical paradigm of like looking up to people, but looking over, looking at who's walking side by side with us, how we're in this together, and just honoring what we each bring to the table. So there's this shift happening across the board. And it's really important to feel that strength, in yourself too. So, thanks for what you do, for how you bring people together in your own show and what you offer them.
thank you. Yeah. All right. So I really wanted everyone to know how badass you are and why you'll rock, like you will totally
Will
rock
you
the
tell my
world.
son? Will you tell my son that, because he doesn't? No, no, go ahead.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah, I actually do a lot of work with kids, so I'll send him some messages for sure.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, so let's dive in, but I wanted to talk just a little bit about intuitive magic, because we're all intuitive. At the very base, it's our gut reactions, right?
Yeah. Because it can be a few things, and this is something that can help people understand that intuition actually works for each of us differently, and to not expect yourself to feel it or experience it the same way as other people, because
Mhm.
you could have a very strong sense of visuals, or a very strong hearing, or a strong intuition, or it comes through your dreams, comes through your body. We are all energy. We have energies happening in all these different places, and some can be stronger than others. And it's like somebody who's really aware of their body's messages will feel their intuition physically, versus
Mm.
someone who feels them through clairaudience or clairvoyance, or another one of the clairs. So that's kind of the magic, is that we each experience it in our own way that actually suits us, and that brings us something we can trust in ourselves.
Oh, I love that. I feel like it takes the pressure off. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If we feel like we have to do it a certain way, or like somebody else is doing it, or we're doing it wrong, that just makes it so much more expansive. I love how you just described that.
Yeah, because it's part of your own, it's interesting. It's part of your own journey where you trust yourself, and you follow what you're getting, and then you kind of do this testing of it. It's like, okay, I had this feeling about something at school or at work, and I'm just going to trust myself in what's coming through, and what I'm feeling, and what I'm visualizing, what I'm sensing, and see how it plays out. So you trust yourself, and then you can also observe what happens, observe how it unfolds, or observe how you're validated. And that is an experiment. I mean, that is something that we do to strengthen our own messages that come through, to strengthen our own muscle, and to trust it. And that takes time, and it takes willingness. It's something we have to keep practicing. But it's pretty cool, because I find that with people, they'll also start to open up to more things that happen as they go down this path. So, for example, I've always felt it like at a feeling energy that it's hard to put into words, but I just have felt, oh my gosh, something's off. I feel it in my body, or I feel it in da da da. And then I start to get these visuals. And I've had really strong visuals develop over the past 5 years through my own desire to see things visually, my own desire to open up my third eye. And I've asked for it. I've asked Spirit to help me with this. And it's been something that has definitely kind of burst open, but it's been through my own desire for it. And so people can look at, well, what information, or rather, how do you want to receive information that works for you?
Hmm.
And what do you want to develop? Because I feel like we have our own gifts, And there's things that I can't do, there's things that I'm not intuitive at, but it's something that is available to all of us. It's not just a psychic gift. We are all psychic, but we've had it shut down for various reasons, perhaps even through various lifetimes. But it's something that everybody truly has. So it's pretty cool to like open that box and unpack it a bit.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I heard you on another podcast talking about your intuition muscle and working it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I feel like kind of the key to success is it's kind of like practice. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like
Yep.
practice will get you so many places in your life and in your world. So that's really
Yes.
what you feel like you did. Like you put a lot of intention in and just started practicing.
Absolutely. And to understand what works for you and that you can develop certain gifts, I do recommend if people are interested that they take any kind of intuitive development courses, whether that's online or in person or something locally, if they really want to go into it more, because you're going to connect with more tools that people use to open up their intuition. And that's kind of cool to see all the different ways you can work with it. But it is like going to the gym where you've got to show up and do the workout and lift the weights to get stronger with it.
Right.
So I feel like that's something to know. Don't expect it to happen right away, but look at the little things that are coming up that are validating you and that are working. And I feel like anything you start within your own home or with your own family and just asking yourself a question, because it does become this inner conversation of, okay, what am I feeling about this interaction or this experience, or what am I sensing about this person or this relationship? Just start asking yourself questions and see what comes up, because you might have something that comes through that's not from your mind. And it's pretty wild to have that experience of, okay, I just had something come through, and I know it's not something I thought, it's something that I received that's a message. And that could be something from your spirit guides, your angels, your intuition, but it's all something coming through from an energy bigger than our mind. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've
Okay.
been working with the spirit body for a long time.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I'm just going to give a great example. If I walk into a room and someone has negative feelings towards me, even if they don't know me, if they're prejudging me or whatever, I feel it
Yes.
immediately.
Yes.
And my night is full of that feeling. You know what I
Right.
mean?
It's pretty cool to explore this within ourselves and to look at what comes up. Some people realize that they're better at hearing things through their dream state. We can receive intuitive messages through songs, through overhearing other conversations. It's like the synchronicities that show up when you want to develop this part of your life are pretty awesome. I've heard messages I needed to receive through other people's conversations, like at Subway, the sandwich place. It was
Mhm.
like someone sitting behind me in the booth said something that was like, oh my goodness, that's the answer to what I've been pondering. So it opens up some pretty cool things when your desire is there to go deeper into this part of yourself.
Right. So are you kind of tuned in all the time? Like even sitting in Subway, you know what I mean? Or is it something that you feel like you have to like put a little more thought or dedication into when you're really getting those messages? Because your messages and your downloads are like otherworldly, yeah, obviously otherworldly. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, yeah, thank
there's
you. Taken me practice to fine tune it, because honestly, when I'm out in the world and I'm pushing a cart at Target and I'm trying to get things done or whatever, I'm not always in that zone. I'm very grounded in my reality and my experience. So then when I do my podcast, I'm in a different place that I've trained myself to be receptive and to trust the visuals and to trust the information that comes through. It's usually when I'm alone that I get the best guidance. That's just how I'm energetically designed. And you could talk to somebody else who's the complete opposite. Like they have to be in a room with people and they need to be surrounded by something. I'm like, when I'm alone and when I can just be, is usually when it's the strongest for me.
okay. Yeah. Mine is definitely when I'm in my like spiritual bath.
Right.
I take
That's
so many
beautiful.
of those. Yeah, I get unbelievable downloads there. But I feel like I've kind of just relied on that and not taken my practice into a lot of other parts of my life. So it's
Yeah.
just a good reminder to turn on the practice, to see what else can come of it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And to see what's comfortable and what works for you. I mean, it can be tiring. I feel like after I do my podcast, I'm kind of a little piggy. Like I'm so hungry because of all the energy that's come through that I want to eat and ground and have some whole foods and drink a lot of water because there's been a lot that's come through. So for me, like being intuitive at times can do a lot on my energy. And so I've had to, work with that in a practical way and just be mindful of how that shows up, of how, we have to make sure that our physical selves also feel strong enough as we're developing these muscles.
Right, right. I love that you give such practical advice like that. When you let people know, like, hey, this is really a good time to nourish yourself, rest more. You just talked about getting really deep sleep. So, literally, I've been going to bed at like 10 and I'm like so stoked. I'm like, yes,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to get that deep sleep tonight, that healing sleep.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It makes all the difference, especially for our brains, but just all of us that needs a rest, for the big stuff that's happening and what we're moving through right now. Absolutely.
Are any of your courses about developing the intuition muscle? I haven't been through all of your courses, so just checking real quick.
Well, the only one that's close, no. There's nothing that's about that specifically, but there's one about the 12 universal spiritual laws, which is about tapping into the bigger energies that are all around us and how to understand what they are and how they're working for you and how to consciously make choices around them. So that's been a big area of understanding that, okay, we're surrounded by all these energies. And when you can kind of get them clear of what's happening or what you're experiencing, that makes a big difference.
Okay, nice. Yes, thank you for that. I wanted to talk before we get into the big 2020 and decade, real quick about natal charts. So, a natal
Yes,
chart is a map showing the positions of the planets at the time of someone's birth.
yes,
So, tell
exactly.
us, how do you feel about natal charts? Like, how important are they? How do we move through them? Any tips that you have about them?
Oh, I am so passionate about the natal chart because it provides this understanding of your energy. And it is many layers of information that can be overwhelming at first. Most people understand their sun sign, and that's how they get into astrology. Your sun is in Aquarius, your sun is in Taurus. And then they learn more about that, and then they move further into it and maybe understand their rising sign and their moon sign. And those three components are all really important in your chart because those are your three main energies that create your overall personality or your personal energy. But then from there, the natal chart goes into more of your personal planets, your Venus, your Mars, your Mercury, your Saturn, etc. And there's placements in your chart that further describe what your energy is in various areas of life, what your lessons are, what your challenges are, what you're healing, what your life themes are. And then from there, all of the planets are in communication with each other in some way. So then you get an understanding of essentially what your planets are talking about, what your energy is experiencing in this lifetime. So what happens is that people, they can be overwhelmed, understandably, with this information because astrology is a whole language and you're learning a language. And there are the glyphs and the symbols and all these things that can be a lot at first. But as you understand it, your energy comes alive and you start to see things in your life and what they were teaching you or what their themes are for you in this life, what you're here to offer the world. Your Mercury, for example, is how you think, how you take in information, how you listen to awesome podcasts like this one. It's how you conceptualize information. When you understand your Mercury, you'll be able to understand your experience at school and
Oh, wow.
how you learned at school, whether that's, elementary, high school, undergrad, whatever. It's how you process information.
Oh,
So
that's
it can make
fascinating.
sense when you understand your Mercury, you understand your learning style. Your Venus is what you need to feel good about yourself. And we have to take care of ourselves first. So it's what we do to feel confident, to feel loved, to feel like I'm a good person. And how you do that for yourself, you take care of that ability to receive. But then you also understand more about what you need to receive in your friendships, in your relationships, what you need to receive to feel loved in the world. So you see more of these parts of yourself and it really clicks. And the thing I do like, Lori, about the natal chart experience is that it's self-verifying. As in, you can listen to me, you can read the books, you can, talk to any other astrologers out there, and they'll give you information. But it puts you in your own mastery to
Mm.
self-verify and to
Mm-hmm.
understand and validate this is true for me, or this is my version of it, or this is how it is for me. So I like how it helps people understand more of who they are in a way that nobody else can do that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you recommend getting your chart read with an astrologer or more looking into like self teachings with it?
I think both. Both are valuable experiences for different reasons. A good astrologer will be able to give you the lay of the land, so to speak, on your chart and tell you what's important, tell you what's significant. And then to understand it yourself, to get more interpretations, more layers of energies. So I think it's both. And there are different types of astrologers, there are different types of books. So I would, I know it depends on people's time and their budget, but you can always start with a really good introduction book to astrology and just see how that is, and then have a session with somebody and how they interpret it or what they see for you. It certainly is something that you could spend a lot of time doing as well, or you
Mm-hmm.
can just spend, not as much time, but it's really quite interesting to go into all of this and look at how it comes through for you.
Yeah, I've had astrologers that did readings for me that, I mean, they knew deep, intimate truths about me that it would have taken years in talk therapy to
Right.
uncover.
It's true.
Yeah, it just goes
Yeah.
so deep, so quick. I feel like it just really helped reframe some things that I was holding on to a certain belief system. And hearing them talk about these belief systems in such a different, positive, just me way, it changed things in an instant for me.
Yeah.
It was really
Yeah. That's
incredible.
It's pretty cool how astrology gets to the heart of things, and that can throw people off. They weren't expecting maybe the revelations to come through, but it's a very clear, energetic design. You really get into what is happening for you, and that can be validating. That can be like really an experience of clarity and peace too, that okay, this someone sees me, they understand who I am and what I'm about.
Yes, that has always been my feeling. You just summed it up perfectly right there.
Mhm.
But there's so much more to dive into. So there's so much that you can study about astrology. Like you said, it's huge. It's an entire language.
Yeah, and astrology has two main systems that I want to highlight for people, because some people get confused, or I just like to highlight that there is the traditional Vedic astrology, which is the Eastern astrology, and that is a different system than Western tropical astrology. I practice Western tropical, and so that is connected to where the planets move through the seasons. And or sidereal Vedic astrology, the planets are in a different position, and they're actually about 24 days behind what Western tropical astrology is. So people, they see these two different systems, and they're like, wait, is one better? Is one more accurate? What should I choose? And what I've seen through my years of doing this is that they're both equally valid, informative, and valuable, and they offer something different. I mean, even the charts are different. A Vedic chart looks very different than a Western tropical chart. So there are some different systems out there. And then within those systems, there's like these subsets of astrological practices and understanding. So it's really this big area of knowledge, but it's pretty cool because there's a lot that we can work with and understand.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting. I actually didn't even know that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I feel like I'm a little bit versed in astrology. So that's really incredible that there's just so much to know. So thank you for that clarification. That's
Yeah, you
fantastic.
bet.
So, are we ready? 2020, the
I
new
know.
decade. It's so
I know.
big. It's huge.
It is. And people have different expectations of what that means. So 2020 has a lot of very rare, powerful astrology, and it brings up things that we haven't experienced at this intensity or in this way before. And it's happening through various different themes. So we have Saturn conjunct Pluto in Capricorn that's been happening through January 2020 here. And that's happened for the first time in 37 years that the two planets have been conjunct. Then we also have 6 eclipses throughout the year. Typically, there's 4 eclipses in a year. So we have 6, which brings in more energy and change and even more emotional experiences because eclipses get things moving and they show us where we've been stagnant. We have some bigger cycles happening with the outer planet of Pluto in Capricorn meeting up with other planets throughout the year. So basically, Lori, there's just a lot happening in one year. And that's what makes it quite interesting. It means that here collectively, we're really changing throughout 2020. There's many ways things can change. There's many timelines. But what the astrology says is that we're moving into a new era on the planet. And we could look at it through, for example, the Capricorn area of business and how, even brick and mortar stores are shutting down, how retail is changing, how business is changing as many people are online, as we're, going directly to different businesses for what we need. You could look at the gig economy, the side hustles, the sharing economy, where it's Airbnb and Uber. Like everything is in place here to create a new experience of business. So over the next year and into this decade, this is one area that's going to have phenomenal changes. And we're all feeling that. We're all feeling the sense of what is my next role or what's my next purpose? What's my true soul mission for being here? So it's really kind of bringing us to look at some big things in our lives and to understand that we have choices about what we want to do.
Right. I mean, I am feeling that big time. It's just like this trust in big change that I haven't
Yeah.
felt in years. Like, I don't even remember the last time I felt this kind of trust and letting go of that fear of the unknown or that fear of failure.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like it's like ripe for the picking right now. I keep telling everyone, like, what are your dreams? What are your hopes? What are your visions? Like, just do it, like, jump because you're going to be so supported right now. I mean, it's like I can almost touch it. I can feel it so well.
That's so exciting. Yeah, and there is an energy here of really supporting people who have done their work, who have stepped into something new that's true for them, that's really what they're authentically here to do and share. There's a lot of support for that. And there's also actually support for the transitions out of something that isn't really you or that you've been afraid to do. Like sometimes what happens is that, the universe kind of gives us this new assignment that says you're really needed here. And we really want to make sure you're set up, you're in alignment, you've got what you need because we're going to need you here. And that's kind of this overall theme too of people transitioning into new work, new areas of self-expression, new hobbies, new areas of interest, and knowing that you can trust that. You can trust that you're meant to move into something new because this is very new energy, and we're ready for it. We're really ready to move into something that's authentically us that maybe we were a little bit afraid of before. And I totally understand because I've been there. I mean, I've been there many times in my life at, okay, am I going to do this? Is this going to happen? And then you get that sense of almost a certainty coming through of, I have to do this. Like I have to do this
Mm,
for myself
yes.
because this is who I am.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh. And I just want to equate that to something that I heard on your podcast this week that you were talking about. And you were talking about actually, we're in this energy of removing these kind of parts of our life to reignite our essence. It's like shedding these layers to get back to that like divinity or remember that divinity, right?
Right. Yeah. And we've had these layers that we've had to wear that have required us to be responsible, that we couldn't get out of, or we couldn't take shortcuts around it. Like it's not about looking back with regret or with a sense of, oh, I could have done that better. Although realistically, we probably all go there at times. But I feel like, everything happens for a purpose and we don't always know that purpose in the moment. You had a certain job to give you certain skill sets, and then you were meant to move on. You had a certain relationship to learn something about yourself, and then you're meant to move on. So we have this ability now to see that, okay, I'm meant to move forward, and what do I want to choose? And I'm in alignment with the timing of it because it couldn't have happened sooner. No matter how much I tried, it couldn't have happened sooner. And
Mm-hmm.
there has been a lot of removal. There's been a lot of removal, which is also validation of how your vibration has changed. of how you have shifted into something that is going to then magnetically connect with that next part of your journey. And it's also quite exciting. I feel like there's this sort of an effervescence to it of, stepping into something after doing a lot of work or understanding who you are. You'll see you'll see it. You'll see that it's really coming through.
Yes. And I've got to say right now, again, I feel like you're just narrating my life. I feel like you're like my documentary host.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's so good. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no, everybody else is getting these messages too. Like, it's just so intimate right now between me and you, and I'm loving it. I'm so into this. Okay, so talking about that kind of removal, but you also talked about removal of codependency, and I resonated so hardcore with this. I feel like I have this ease of removing maybe even relationships or my, strong career without fear. I feel like it's like I was holding on to those things for fear of loss or fear of the unknown. And now it just feels like, oh, of course it's time to shift this and open up to new energies and be ready for something new.
Yes, totally. And part of that is a bigger energetic cycle. And I feel like something I've had to learn and I still practice and I still learn is that discomfort we feel moving through a process when it's not quite there just yet, but we have to just take it day by day, step by step, breath by breath, and know that we're okay, even in the discomfort, even in the parts of ourselves that are expecting more or wanting more. And part of the growth, too, is seeing how when you look back on your life, you handled it. You were able to get through certain things and just you did what you needed to do. And so I feel like there's so much about us that is equipped to keep going forward, to trust this new emerging energy, this new path that excites you, that calls to you, that you can't deny anymore, and know that the bigger energies are showing up to help with that driving intention after the fear, has dissipated a bit.
Yes. I love your message of divine timing. I feel like
Yeah.
that's so strong and powerful because it helps us release regret, right? Because you
Yep.
just, yeah, you let me feel like, okay, well, that's okay that I was doing that. That was what I needed. That helped me get to here. And it just
Yeah.
feels really supportive.
Yeah, because in the moment and in certain experiences, we can look back or in hindsight have regrets or see something different that we didn't see then. But there is usually a validation coming through that you're exactly where you need to be. And the divine timing, I mean, I've had to practice that for years, girl. I've had to be like, okay, like there's divine timing here. I mean, like decades. It's been decades of my life. And
Yeah.
it's something that, going back to developing your intuitive muscle, it's that trusting muscle. And it's that sense of, okay, I don't know what's happening right now, but I just have to go through it. And one of my mentors and one of my guides, who I initially met in 2001, I believe is when I first met her as one of my spiritual teachers, she told me how you don't have to like it. And I
Mm,
was like, oh my goodness, I was expecting myself to like it or enjoy it or make the most of it. But it's kind of like you can be a little bit uncomfortable. You don't have to like it. You can be in that place of like, I don't agree with this, but I know it's a divine purpose. So it's like we reach higher, we reach higher to trust in that divine timing and divine purpose when our humanness is experiencing something else.
yeah, like divine acceptance, right?
Yes. Oh,
Just like,
good one. That's
yes,
great.
softening in, like really just, yeah. And that's,
Yeah.
like I said before, when I'm like having a hard time, I can't wait to listen to your podcast because it just reminds me, like, okay, this is the process. I'm in it. We've got our light, we've got our dark. It's not always comfortable, but, I'm learning and I'm moving and I'm shifting and I'm, gaining.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's important to develop that self-talk with ourselves, of like, okay, yeah, I'm doing the best I can. I am a badass. I am, aware of this and what you've learned along the way to make sure that we don't fall back into any kinds of lower consciousness thinking or the victim consciousness because we're never a victim in our life, even with various circumstances or events or experiences. We're never the victim. Like the universe, God, source, spirit never sees us as that, always sees us as powerful. And I think a big part of what we learn along the way is that, yes, I am powerful, and this is how it looks for me, and this is how I'm working with it.
Mm-hmm. You know, something you just said reminded me of a quote that Brene Brown had talked about. And this
I love
changed.
her.
Yeah, it was a game changer for me. She was actually on a podcast and she was talking about now, if someone said to you about, you know, a past trauma or a miscommunication with somebody, what if I told you that that person was doing the very best they could at that time?
Yes,
How would that feel? And I was
right.
like, whoa, mind blown. It shifted everything. And suddenly you're feeling all this love and light for them and compassion. And instead of, you know, making it more about yourself and what happened to you, it just like
Yeah,
really shifts that dynamic and that energy. And yeah, I love it. I practice it all the time.
awesome. That makes a difference. Yeah, and it's that compassion, that acceptance, all of that. It shifts the energy for you and the situation, the dynamic, everything. There's a lot of win-wins there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd be remiss if I didn't actually ask you about Mercury retrogrades.
Oh yeah.
So
That's
are there
right.
pros to them? Should they be feared? Are they an opportunity for growth? Real quick, we don't have a lot of time left, but give us your Mercury retrograde thoughts.
So what I've observed over the years and years of this is that it's basically a really good time to slow down and catch up with yourself, to stop everything that is moving along maybe at warp speed or too fast. Mercury is the fastest planet in astrology. And again, as I said, it connects to the mind. And think about everything we're thinking in a day, all of the things we have to do, all of our areas that we need to go and take care of, and tasks and the stimuli, the social media. That's all Mercury. So when we slow down and we honor this experience of Mercury retrograde, we come back into alignment with ourselves consciously. And we're no longer racing about. So what I've done over the years is I have, taken time to review things I'm working on, to review projects. I'll go through my phone and look at what apps I'm not using anymore, delete. Look at my email list and look at what am I subscribed to in terms of emails that I never read, delete. So it's a good cleaning out period in practical terms, but then it's just a good time to be in that place of I don't have to make everything happen right now. I don't have to keep doing, doing, doing. How can I, mentally alleviate myself a bit more? I feel like that's the healthiest and even most practical way to do it. And also, they say, you don't start anything under Mercury retrograde. Girl, I have tried that. I have like gone against my own astrological knowledge, and it just comes back and kicks me in the butt. I'm like, Molly, you know better to do
Uh-huh.
any of this. So all I can say is don't initiate, expect reviews, expect yourself to review something, to have time to sit with it. And then wait until it's over. And chances are, if there was a delay, if things got messy, if there was any errors, after Mercury retrograde is over, things can move ahead faster and even better.
Nice. Yes, I love all of that Mercury retrograde advice and positivity. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were scheduled to do this this episode next month, and then you mentioned the Mercury retrograde, and I was like, "Yep, all right, I'm in. Let's do it when the divine timing is now."
Yes. Yes.
Oh
That's
my god.
right.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. That just I feel like that really helps
Oh,
to
good.
yeah, because people Mercury retrograde gets a pretty bad rap, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so thank you for that.
Yeah. Good.
Um,
You're welcome.
yeah, gosh, Molly, I could talk to you forever, and I'm so grateful to have the time that I have had with you. We're gonna have to wrap up pretty soon, but I definitely want to
Yeah.
hit a couple of things quickly. So, my last
Sure.
question to all my guests is who would your dream guest be and why at any time of their existence, whether they're in the astral realm now or they're, here on earth with us, whenever?
Wow. Well, okay. So I really enjoyed the teachings of Ram Dass, who just passed away
Yes.
recently. And so I feel like he left us with many gifts, but I never got to see him live or in person. So it would be interesting to get more of an understanding of him and who he is and what he's about. There are other visionaries that I always thought were incredibly inspiring. I always, like when I was younger, I was always energetically drawn to Martin Luther King Jr. And we just had his holiday and his birthday
Mm-hmm.
here in the States, but I always thought he was a power force of a vision and of something bigger for the world. So those are two off the top of my head, and then there's been so many impactful women through the years that obviously Oprah would be wonderful, to talk to. Of course, she's had conversations with everybody about everything, but hopefully there'd be something new and fresh. I love Brene Brown. I think that her books and her wisdom have been vital for activating more of the feminine experience in the world, for understanding our own complexities, our emotional processes, and I just found her to be incredible. So I guess those are four off the top of my head, Lori. And I know it can go on, but there's just so many interesting people these days that yeah, and you, I'm grateful that I could connect with you and have this conversation. So thank you for
Oh,
this.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I completely agree with Brene Brown. I feel like you and her actually keep me lifted up in my dark. I fully embrace my dark, but I'll listen to the both of you on repeat and just remember all of that beautiful inner essence that I have. Really just trust the process. You both
Yeah.
give me so much trust. But I was going to, in regards to astrology, I was just going to say my dream guest is you, number one, which is so exciting
Thank
right
you.
now.
That's
But
so sweet. Thank
yeah,
you.
and I'm also going to throw in Hani Nicholas. I don't know if you've heard of her,
No,
but
I
you,
haven't, but
yeah,
I
you
look
and
forward
her,
to it.
yeah, she just came out with a book, and you and her are like the yin and yang of astrology for me. It's like,
Uh-huh.
I feel like you're like this mythical horse, like with this open and free strength that you're just giving to everyone and like putting out into the realm. And then I feel like she's kind of like this mythical wolf with this quiet deep knowingness. It just kind of like moves along, it's just steadily there. So the two of you together are definitely my astrological powerhouse.
That's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate just the new people that I meet in the world and that I'm opening up to seeing their gifts and what they're here to do. It's really exciting to get that inspiration from other people. So thank you so much for sharing that, Lori. And I can't wait to hear more about that show too.
Yeah, and that just leads me to the last piece here, which is you talk about how you feel like that's your soul mission is to actually really lift other people up in their soul mission and really help
Yeah.
guide them.
Yeah, absolutely. And to know that you can step into this work, you can go forward with it, you can trust yourself, you can do it your own way. And that's actually vital to success to know what your own way is, how you're here to connect with others. And so there's a responsibility for us to know that in ourselves, but also to, notice it in other people that we're each individuals. And that's one of the themes too, is that it's a time of individuation. It's a time of understanding you and knowing that that's enough and that that is what will ultimately lead to the most, satisfaction and happiness.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you really help people in their businesses. I mean, I just started listening to your business podcast. You have that as well as your astrological, intuitive podcast.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, because it's so important to do that in a way that's practical, that, sets you up with the things that are essential in business and to understand, the finances and to understand what you're here to offer. So I think that it's an education process, for a lot of people based on whatever their past experiences have been, what their jobs have been, but you can do this, you can absolutely do this.
Yeah, and you just came out with a BG5 course that I definitely bought, and I'm really
Yeah.
excited to get into it. And we only
Yeah.
have about 2 minutes left, but go ahead and just let us know whatever you want to tell us about all of your offerings. You have so much out there. It's like this library for the taking. It's like so
Yeah.
exciting. So let us know.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so there's various astrology courses if you wanted to learn more about your natal chart or learn about astrology transits. All of that is at mollymccord.online. And then the BG5 is an introduction to BG5 codes and human design, which is how you're here to be successful in the world. It's been very important for me to understand how I'm supposed to work and how I'm not supposed to work. So that has brought a lot of clarity. I have a few different spiritual development, like I mentioned, the 12 Universal Courses class. And I know there's more. I've been doing this, I've been developing things for 8 years, but it took a long time to kind of get it going and get it out there. So I guess for those of you out there, just stick with it. Know that things happen in a way that you can't always plan, that it can pay off in the long term and in the long run. And if I can do anything to support you, then it's an honor. I never take it for granted. So I
Oh, it's
appreciate it. I appreciate it,
amazing.
Lori. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just my therapist and I this week were talking about persistence, and
Yeah.
like really just staying on the path and trusting and even if the thing that you wanted doesn't come to fruition, something else is going to come from that.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
always going to be new avenues. Oh
And it's
my
the
gosh. Yeah,
magic of the universe. It's
the
pretty
magic of
great.
the universe. I love it. I'm so into it. I know we're gonna have to go. This recording's about to to cut off because
Yes.
we went to the
Yes.
very last second. But Molly, thank you so much. This is a dream come true. I have
Oh.
loved this conversation. I'm so excited. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Lori. It's a joy to speak with you. The time flew by. Those are the best conversations, that they just happened. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yes, have a beautiful day, and I invite the world to just keep on keeping on spiritually and everywhere. I'm kind of speechless right now because we're about to hang up.
Yes.
All right,
Thank you
thank
so
you,
much.
Molly. Have a beautiful
Take care.
day. All right,
Bye, everyone. Thank
bye.
you. Bye-bye.
And with that, let's normalize the struggles, celebrate the quirks, and lean into the light. From myself and Beezus the Brave, happy Wild Heart Revolution, friends. Oh, that was so rad.